Cuddling a pony. Cuddling the rainbow.
Hey, Anon!
Rainbow Dash greeted her friend. Anon waved and smiled at her Pegasus friend, returning her greeting with an enthusiastic tone. Oh, Dash, hi! It's so great to see you! Anon, being the true gentleman that he was, held open the door for Dash and invited her inside to sit down on the sofa. The two had been friends for, a few months now? Rainbow Dash had been one of the first ponies that he met. She introduced him to the rest of the gang, Twilight, Fluttershy, Applebat, or something like that. Rare something or other, and another one that he honestly couldn't remember. But he had been introduced to a couple other of their friends as well. But he committed only a few of their names to memory. He concluded that he'd probably only be conversing with a few anyway. After all, as much as he would have liked to visit Equestria, it had been only recently they began to allow humans in, so the chances of him being selected was slim, at best. Out of all the ponies, however, Rainbow Dash had been the one that he took the most to. He wasn't exactly sure what it was, whether it was her beautiful rainbow mane, happy-go-lucky attitude, or something completely different. The reasoning for why he took to her so much eluded him. Not that he put much thought into it anyway. Maybe another day. Right now, however, was the time for cakes. The pair both agreed that they would buy what they think would be the other's favorite flavor of muffin. Honestly, Rainbow Dash was intrigued as to what Anon would buy for her. After all, hers was probably the most easy to guess. Now for the moment of truth. On the count of 3, we open our boxes, Anon said, to which Dash grinned and nodded. 1, 2, 3. There was a moment of silence before Dash exhaled in annoyance.
Oh, come on! Chocolate? Really? How did you know? Did you cheat?
Her voice had a jokey tone, so Anon decided to entertain her. Nope. I just knew how predictable you are, so I concluded that it must have been chocolate. Anon poked his tongue at a rainbow, to which she giggled happily.
So, I'm gonna guess that strawberry muffins aren't your favorite.
Dash pushed the box of muffins towards Anon with her muzzle, and Anon chuckled in response. Not too far off. Dash's ears perked up slightly.
Really?
Anon grinned at her. Nope. Miles off. Rainbow's ears flopped back down and she rolled her eyes, letting out a small sigh. Anon stared down at the Saiyan pony below him, smiling widely. God, she was just so adorable. You ponies are just so lucky. Rainbow looked up at Anon, tilting her head to the side and letting out a small, huh?
How so?
She asked. Well, for one, you don't have fingers. Do you know how horrible it is to just have super numb fingers on a cold day? You guys have fur, which keeps you super warm all the time.
Oh, shush you.
Dash giggled.
You're making it sound horrible to be a human. Fingers are great. You don't have to use your mouth to pick everything up. You can get an actual, solid grip on things, and you can just use... what are they called? Gavs? Gloves? Something like that.
Gloves?
Yeah, gloves. Just use those if your fingers get cold.
Alright. Okay, maybe it's not all that bad. A comfortable silence enveloped the pair. Anon laid back on the sofa, closing his eyes, and exhaled loudly. After a few moments, however, the silence was broken over by Dash's voice.
Anon?
He opened an eye. Huh?
Do you ever get lonely?
That caught him off guard. He opened the other eye. How do you mean?
Living by yourself. Doesn't it get lonely?
He considered the question for a moment. It was nice having Rainbow Dash around, and when he was by himself, he did rather feel sullen. But that was besides the point. Was lonely the right word to describe what he was feeling? Why did Rainbow even want to know? Sometimes, I guess. Anon paused momentarily, then shook his head. Actually, all the time. Without any hesitation, Dash responded.
Would it be okay If...
She paused, looking downwards.
If... I lived with you?
Now that caught him off guard. He opened his eyes and stared at the Pegasus blankly. But what about your friends in Equestria?
Well, I'd still see them.
Dash, Anon said. I feel like maybe we need to think this over first, you know? I wouldn't object to it. Rainbow Dash sighed, looking down at the ground.
You're right,
she said.
I just get lonely sometimes too.
She covered her mouth with her hooves and blushed fiercely. Dash definitely did not mean to let that out. Anon frowned. In a gesture of comfort, he placed a hand tenderly on her back and gently rubbed circles on it. Neither said anything as Rainbow shifted closer to him. Resting her head on his leg, Anon opted to simply wrap his arm around her shoulder and give her a gentle squeeze. Dash, he said. It's okay to feel lonely. Rainbow Dash simply grumbled in response, closing her eyes and adjusted her head to rest on his chest, her gaze shifting so that she was looking up directly at him. God, that was an utterly adorable sight. Her deep, magenta eyes stared straight into his soul as he moved a hand to gently caress her ears, rubbing gently around the base of them. Aww, Anon squeed. Now who's the cutest pony? He gave her muzzle a gentle boop, and her muzzle scrunched up cutely in response. Anon removed his hand from her momentarily in order to allow his friend to shift upwards to sit by him. The physical contact did not cease for long, however, as Dash nuzzled gently into his neck, pressing deeply into it and exhaling contently.
This is amazing,
Dash groaned softly. Anon simply squeezed her gently in response, allowing himself to rest his head upon hers. Well, someone likes cuddles, he teased. Dash's muzzle scrunched and she blushed bright red.
Hey, cuddles are great,
she said.
Speak for yourself, Anon. You haven't exactly complained about anything.
He chuckled softly. God, you really are just the cutest pony. Rainbow Dash let out a little squeak and pressed further into him, and the pair allowed a comfortable silence to envelop them both. Anon looked down at the Pegasus below him, smiling as he wrapped both his arms around her torso, pulling her close to him and gently resting his head atop hers. She pressed upwards gently, in an attempt to nuzzle further into his warm neck. Anon moved his hand to rest on top of Dash's hoof, squeezing it gently, his thumb rubbing gently back and forth across the soft lock of fur. A small snore was heard from beneath him, and he smiled as the realization hit him. Rainbow Dash had fallen asleep, her breaths even and deep. He felt the rise and fall of her chest, the warm air emanating from her body and nostrils with each exhale. He moved to pet her mane gently, rubbing the tip of one of her ears and placing a gentle kiss on top of her head. Anon found his own eyes growing heavy. He decided that he too should join the Pegasus friend in the world of unconsciousness. As his eyes closed and his breathing slowed, Anon allowed himself to let go. I love you, Dashi. That was such an immensely sweet story. Anyway, I'd like to give a big shout out to my stunning donators. Yoshi Super Saiyan 2, Peter Coulthard, Nicholas Springthorpe, Dospo, Rainbow-1990, RuneScythe9852, David D. Sanchez, Dwight Cornel, Gagi, Secret Moon, ORIAN KAIJU, Starlight Glimmer, Trey, Pokekillerzach, Soul Dragon, Dak Britton, Joe Pierce E, and Reno. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.